Welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. Just gonna give everyone a minute to join before we start today. And thanks again for hopping on to learn more about our project management tools. Cool. So let's get started here. Just a note here, we're gonna keep a recording of this copy. So anyone who has missed any information, feel free to refer to the recording and the slide deck by email after the session. So my name is Will, and I'm on the construction team here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I'd like to address a few housekeeping items. Just to ensure a smooth session, all attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. You can access that from the dashboard, from the GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so we'll do our best to address as many questions as we can. And for any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly after the webinar. Additionally, we also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. So feel free to select your answers when the questions pop up, and really appreciate your response on that. And lastly, we have a short 7-question survey at the end of the webinar, which we would appreciate if you could fill out. It really helps us determine the usefulness of the content we're delivering and also help us plan for future webinars as well. So without further ado, let me introduce you to your speaker and construction expert, John, who is a solutions engineer at Fieldwire.
All right, thanks, Will. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our Project Management for General Contractors webinar. Let's jump right into it. We got a lot to cover today. So quick agenda for today. I'm going to run through a quick introduction of myself. Next, we'll jump into a project management overview. And the bulk of this meeting is going to be really that project management demo. And then we'll top it all off with a Q&A. So quick introduction of myself. I'm John Shamandy Cook, construction solutions engineer here at Fieldwire. You know, what does that big fancy title really mean? Just keep in mind the construction team at Fieldwire, we're all coming from the industry. So I myself, I graduated from Lehigh with an engineering degree. Then I went to go work for about 4 years at Kiewit, where, you know, I started as a field engineer on power plant projects. Then I did a little bit of estimating, and I ended my tenure at Kiewit as a superintendent on a large infrastructure project in the New York City area. So with that industry knowledge, I now work at Fieldwire as a product expert, helping clients to realize and see the solutions that we can provide them in their day-to-day operations. Before we jump right into project management, let's talk about, you know, what's the foundation? What are we building this off of? And that's really our field management solutions, or, you know, offerings really. So what's really involved in that? You know, there's a couple key ideas that whenever we build something within Fieldwire, there's a couple key ideas that we build into it, right? One, ease of use, right? We want our men and women in the field to not be afraid to use the product, to use it as a strong tool to help them manage their work, access information, and track progress. So let's kind of talk about the 3 pillars that really encompass field management, right? Access and share information, right? Whether it be plans or documents, being able to mark those up in the field all in real time and collaborate on those documents. Next, plan and manage work, right? Using our task management module with the messaging and punch list functionalities, you're really able to get the full scope of every task you have on your project from start to finish. And lastly, track and report on progress, right? So with forms and reporting, as well as working in tandem with photos and videos attached to, you know, whether it be a task, plans, or within those reports, within those forms in themselves, you're really able to see the full picture of what your final product is before you deliver it to your clients. So, right, this is our bread and butter, that foundation, the field management. What Fieldwire has been driving development now is in this project management offerings. And what does that really include, right? We have RFIs, submittals, and specifications. That's what we've been further developing. And then obviously we have those kind of older, hey, custom forms, all that stuff that used to be field management, but really is now a project management functionality. So first, let's talk about RFIs. What's the high level ideas or principles around RFIs, our end goals here, right? We want a system of record, right? Fieldwire ensures accountability across all your teams throughout the entire RFI process, right? We don't want these stagnant documents that live on your server and in emails and that aren't interconnected into your actual project sphere where, you know, your foreman can actually access it in the field. Integrate with the field, right? Everything in Fieldwire, like everything in Fieldwire, the end goal is once we actually get the answer for that RFI, we actually want to be able to link that to the plan, link that to tasks so that, again, when our men and women are in the field, they actually have access to those answers or see where those answers are actually at. And lastly, automated tracking, right? Create and assign RFIs directly from the field and office in seconds. So let's kind of look at this flow in more of like a picture form, right? Ask a question on mobile in the field, get an answer on web, and then continue to work with that final answer in the field again. Next, we got specifications and submittals, right? So again, what are those main principles around that, right? We want to create a collaborative workflow, so right? So add your entire team onto one process. And again, it's similar to RFIs, right? We don't want these detached softwares working in tandem together. We want one platform where everybody's collaborating and working together to get these approved on time. Next, automated tracking, right? Between, you know, labor shortages and supply chain strains, you know, in recent days, it's imperative to ensure that we get our materials on site on time, especially with the lead times that we're seeing. So having that automated tracking and that real-time view of where you're at with all these submittals is imperative to ensure you get the job done on time. And then lastly, seamless setup. Well, we're going to jump into you're going to see the seamless setup steps in this next slide. So what all of our clients do and what they benefit from really is the fact that, hey, you upload your specifications into Fieldwire, you quickly extract your submittals from those specifications using Fieldwire again, and then lastly, you push those into your submittals tab, and then you're able to create and draft out all those submittals and then assign them out to all the third parties or internally that are involved in that approval process. So before we jump into the demo, I implore you, Will's going to send out a poll, and could you please take a minute to just answer that, please? Super. Thank you for answering. Now, let's jump into the live demo. So just to give everybody a little bit of a lay of the land of kind of the different personas that I'm going to be looking at during this presentation, we have our general contractor view, right? That's y'all working inside of your projects. And you can always tell which view I'm in with the little post-it that you'll see on the top here. So if you're ever confused, just check the top right corner. You'll get a little bit more context on what I'm talking about in that instance. Next, we have that kind of iPad view. So what are your subcontractors or any of your field personnel looking at on mobile when they're interacting with these projects? Next, we have the subcontractor more website view. And again, we have that posted on the top. And then lastly, we have our architect view or / consultant view on this screen as well. So before we jump into a full flow here, let's just talk about general principles, or right, the general idea again around whether it be RFI or submittals, and it's a really easy way to conceptualize it. It's as if we've combined email, text, your PDF editor, your local server, and Excel all into one product with the added benefit of real-time updates. So what does that mean with respect to RFIs, right? What we're looking at right now is this living RFI log. It's a living document. What I mean by that is, hey, we see all of our unique RFI numbers, we see those names, but most importantly, we see those live statuses, right? I know exactly where all my RFIs are at and where their due dates are. I even see those red due dates where, hey, this is behind and we need to push this. We need to push whoever needs to answer this to ensure that we get this answer on time for building, to construct. Lastly, we have the assignee tab, right? So this becomes, again, that living document, and the beauty of having all those platforms connected into one is that essentially you remove the risk of human error, right? There's so many steps in the old-fashioned process where, whether it be, hey, did somebody not forget to download it onto the server? Did somebody forget to update the log? Did somebody forget to send that email to the architect? There's so many steps where, you could lose information. In this case, since it's all on one platform, you get that added benefit of, again, you remove that human error portion of the whole equation, right? Now, if you still do need that kind of, hey, snapshot view of this log in that Excel format for an OAC meeting or as a deliverable to the client, you can always generate that report directly from here. Now, again, before we jump into flow, let's look at what like a closed out RFI actually looks like. And I'll give you all a little lay of the land of this window. We're actually in an RFI now. So here I have my unique RFI number. I have its current status. Here I can see the creator. Obviously this is closed out, so there's no current assignee. We have its due date. Here's that question and answer area where I can, again, add my question, add a suggestion, add attachments as needed, and then my architects can also answer back, or consultants can answer back within here. On the right-hand side here, we have our details area. So here I can, indicate cost impacts as needed, but even better, a functionality that I love about this, and we talk about that interconnectivity of this whole thing, is that you can see all the project links related to this RFI. So, hey, is it related to another RFI, a task, or in this case, this RFI is in fact related to a plan, and we're going to be able to see that on the plan in just a moment. Next, we got the activity log. I like to think of this, it's kind of like the live Facebook feed of this RFI. So we can see who accepted and sent back this RFI every step of the process. Lastly, we have our watchers tab, right? I always like to say, it's really easy to think of it as like seeing somebody on an email, right? They're not directly related with this approval process, but they'll see all the updates that are directly related to it. So with that said, let's actually jump into an example, right? And the example that we're gonna kind of think about today is, imagine I'm one of your subcontractors, I'm the superintendent in the field, and I have a simple question about a door entryway. Now, in the old way of doing things, pardon me, that superintendent would maybe phone call you, send you a text with that picture, and then you'd have to upload that picture into Word or Bluebeam and then create your RFI. Then again, send that email out to the architect, receive that email back, update your RFI log. So there's a lot of steps there that you're going to see are really seamlessly done within Fieldwire. So again, let's imagine I'm that superintendent on site. I'm on my plan, and I'm actually right here in the plan, and I've got a question about this doorway right here. As that superintendent, hey, I can go ahead, select my task tool right here, and drop it directly on the plan. So now we have context to where this issue is occurring, where this question is coming from. Now, as the superintendent, I can go ahead and door hardware question. So there I can title this task, or this question in this case. I'm going to status it as on hold. Hey, we're waiting for some information here. Next, I can go ahead and categorize this, and hey, I don't have an access ways. I'll just add an access category. Done. Now I can categorize this under access, and for the sake of here, I'll just put it under ceiling. And then now let's get to the bulk of the issue, right? Which is, now that superintendent's probably going to want to send you a picture, right, for more context. So directly, again, in the task, he's not sending you an email or sending you a text. It's all within Fieldwire. He can go ahead and actually take a picture with his mobile device. Here, I'll just take a picture of a door in my office. And now that I'm actually at that photo, hey, that foreman might want to annotate this photo, add a little more context for you when you're back in the office. So Hey, I'll add a little measurement. Let's say this is a 3-foot wide door. Next, they can add a little annotation, single leaf door accessway. And now we can close that out. So now, hey, when he sends this to you, you're gonna have full context on what's going on here. Next, as that superintendent, hey, let me send John Shamandy Cook, my PM on the GC side, yourselves, a message. The hardware that you purchased for this doorway is for a double leaf door, while the drawing indicates a single leafed door. Please advise on how to proceed. Post and send that out. Now with that at function, essentially, what you're gonna see is that's gonna notify me back in the office about this issue. So here, hey, I get that little ping notification. I see exactly, hey, Jimmy, my superintendent on the subcontractor side has an issue. And now I could choose just to respond back to Jimmy if I have the solution, or let's say I want to create an RFI here. I can actually start this RFI directly from the task. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's create an RFI directly from here. Go new RFI. Now what Fieldwire is going to do is, hey, do you want to actually copy over that photo that you're using in the name? And in fact, I do, because that's exactly the steps that I would have done in my, the old RFI process, right? So let's go ahead, we create that. I'm going to jump into this door hardware question. So now, as the GC, I can now shape my question and actually add those answers in. So now save you all the trouble of watching me poorly spell this out. I'm just going to copy and paste a question and answer that I pre-prepared here. And then I can also drop in my suggestion as well. And you'll see that the attachment is already there. If I need to, I can also add more attachments. All these attachment options are really similar to what you can do within a task, right? I want to add a crop plan, a file, whatever I may need to add more context for once I send this out, for when I send this out to the architect. On the right-hand side here, hey, we can see that related task, where it's been related to. And now I can indicate cost impact. So, hey, cost and schedule, if we need to furnish or get new hardware. Perfect. Now I'm ready to send this out. So I'm going to go ahead, and the way I like to think about it, and again, this is similar between RFI and submittals within Fieldwire, is as the general contractor, you act as the middleman between all parties. So you're going to be assigning these out, requesting them out, and then those individuals can only send it back to you. So you'll always get eyes on every step of the process, ensuring that it's actually what you want to see as answers or submissions, if it were a submittal in this case. So now, hey, let me go Brian Green on the architect side. I'm going to request it from him. I can assign a due date. Also, hey, I'm going to have that enable that email reminders to make sure it keeps pinging him to, fill this out on time. So let me assign that over to Brian Green. Now, Brian can answer this within Fieldwire if he chooses to do so. But what's even better about this, what I love about Fieldwire is, again, it's like, we have these architects that are working with 5 or 6 different clients. They're on 5 or 6 different platforms, and they don't want to deal with jumping into all these different platforms. But keep in mind, they can still answer the email that they receive from Fieldwire directly from their email. So here you can see, hey, I see that RFI I just sent, Brian Green. I can see all the information and context that I added to it within Fieldwire. And now he has the option right here to just simply respond to this email. So let's run through those steps of responding by email. Brian would go ahead, hey, he types up his answer for this particular issue. And then he can even go ahead and add an attachment. Maybe he wants to add that door technical data to this RFI. So let's send that out. We're just going to take a quick break here, and Will's going to send out another poll. If you could just take a moment to answer that, please. Superb. Thanks for answering that, folks. So now again, just bringing us all back, Brian submitted that answer via email. I'm actually going to see that within my email. Hey, Brian answered your RFI. Now, when I come back to the actual RFI itself, you'll notice that why is that answer actually not here? That's because it's in the activity log. Now, the reason why we added this step, it's really, again, to add that last litmus check to ensure that, one, did Brian just maybe answer this email by accident? And two, ensure that this is in fact the answer I want to see. So I can go ahead and mark this as the answer, and now it's actually going to fill into our official answer. So just ensuring that we're never convoluting those official answers, and you always get eyes on that last approval. Now from here, I got a couple options, and keep in mind, one thing I didn't mention earlier, I mean, at this point I can reject this, but at any point in this process, I can always email these out or download it as a PDF to get that quick snapshot. Also, in this case, I can reassign within my company. Maybe this is not directly related to me. I want to send this to the superintendent that's managing the subcontract. I can do that as well right from here. In this case, I'm pleased with this answer. I like it. Let's rock and roll. I'm going to go ahead and accept it. When you go to accept, you can decide to add to that distributor list as well. So in this case, hey, Jimmy was the person that asked this question. Let me add him right on there. And now I can accept and close, and everybody on the distributor list is going to receive an email and see the notifications that, hey, we've in fact closed out this RFI. Now to kind of just, before we jump back into kind of Jimmy's view, that superintendent originally asked this question, you can see the RFI log has updated with every step of the process here. So now kind of bringing this again full circle back to Jimmy, he's in the field and he sees when he jumps back into that RFI, into that task, he's going to see that answered RFI directly within that task. Keep in mind as well, you can also be linking these directly to the plan. So, hey, you know, you want this to have high visibility to everybody on your project. Here you can see an example of RFI that's been linked to the plan so that everybody, whether it be a subcontractor, internal user, your architect, everybody sees where these RFIs are connected to. Super. So now let's jump into submittals. So again, the principles around submittals, like we talked about, combining all those softwares kind of, or those platforms into one, same exact idea here. So right now, what are we looking at? That live submittal log, this living document that gives you, hey, your submittal numbers, the specific spec section that it's attached to, the name of that submission, its live status, and then you got your submit by and approve by dates. And again, you see these ones in red that, hey, this is that warning for you that we've got problems with these. These are behind. We need to go and, you know, hunt down Bob Super to get this answered immediately. And then we have our current assignee. With that said, we can also always, again, generate a report as that quick snapshot for those meetings or deliverables where you need that kind of old-fashioned Excel document. So let's talk about what's the benefit here at the end of the day. And a big one that I like to think about is the accountability portion. And before we jump into that, actually, let's jump into specs first, because I want to bring you guys through this more in a storyboard style. So jumping into specs, that's actually where submittals start. Now, within specs and within Fieldwire, it's actually quite similar to plans, where when I go to upload specifications into my Fieldwire, Fieldwire is going to want to break them down. So these 1,000-page documents that are, you know, very daunting for anybody to just pick up and start flipping through, are actually broken down into their specific spec sections, making them a lot easier to digest. With that said, again, similarly to plans, what you'll notice is, as a subcontractor, as a GC, I can collaborate and annotate on these specifications and work with my team. So again, you can highlight and point out comments as needed to ensure that everybody has high visibility of what you're doing within your spec sections. Now, let me close this out and let's get to the really cool stuff, which is this extract submittals button right here. And the idea with this, and again, you know, gone are the days of, hey, you know, I remember being one of those junior engineers where your project, your PM comes up to you, drops that 1,000-page document on your desk and says, read through this and figure out, create my submittal log, create our submittal log. You need to find every iterance of a submittal. Within Fieldwire, you're going to be able to do that within a fraction of the time. And what Fieldwire is essentially doing, it's reading for iterances where, you know, your specifications are required, a product data, shop drawing required, submission required, and then creating that log for you. So just to show you an example, and this is actually from the spec section, after a little bit of editing, I can actually see that clean submittal log in a fraction of the time again. So let's jump back into submittals, and how does this actually tie back in? How does that extraction directly tie in to submittals? And that's with this import function. So the idea here is, again, what we tell our clients to do all the time, before they even demob to site, you extract your submittals from your specs, you upload them into Fieldwire right here. I'm going to run through that right now. Keep in mind, this example document that I'm dropping in only has 4 submittal lines, just to not, you know, busy up our screen for this demonstration. But you can see that 4 new drafts have been created from that submittal log that I just brought in. With that said, then from this point now, you can start requesting these out from the different third parties that you need this information. And the idea around that request out is really to gain that accountability from all parties. So if we go to our subcontractor view, right, they're in their submittals, they can also go to my submittals and see exactly what they're required to send you. And what this negates is, you know, those old-fashioned excuses where, you know, you're talking to your subcontractor, hey, why is the submittal late? And they go, oh, sorry, I must have missed your email, I must have got lost, blah, 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 all those types of kind of dog ate my homework excuses. Now, there's no more of that, because when they're within Fieldwire, they see exactly what they owe you and when. Jumping back to submittals on the GC side here, let's, instead of, you know, we're not going to go through a workflow, because the sending back and forth is very similar to RFIs. Again, think of it as you're the middleman. So let's actually just look at every state of a submittal within Fieldwire. Let's start with drafts. So here, obviously, this unique draft submittal number will populate once this gets out of draft. We can see that live status, current assignee, and all that jazz. Here, this section has changed a little bit, right? This is where we're going to be dropping in our submissions. The detail section is a little bit different as well, right? Here, this is where we see all the information that you're basically requesting or that you need to fill in for the submission. So we can see, hey, what type is it? In this case, it's product data. Here, I can actually link the specific spec section that's related to this, and you're actually able to open these up when you're in these submittals. Next, we got lead time and on-site time that we can assign to these. What I love about this function here is, let's say I assign a lead time, hey, it's 10 weeks and I need it in May. Fieldwire is actually going to give you a suggested submit by date. And again, talking about that, not accountability so much as, you know, the strains on supply chain and all that, Fieldwire is helping you ensure that you get these products on site on time and that you have enough time to actually go through this approval workflow. Now, with that said, let's actually talk about, at this point here, as the general contractor, you may not have every single vendor on your platform. You may not have all your smaller subs on your platform. We implore you to do so. But at this point, as the general contractor, you can choose to just, hey, upload your submission from that email that you received and then send it out to the architect. Again, the added benefit here is this request function. You want to request these out from those individuals. Let's jump out and let's look at, so again, now let's say I request this from our guy, Ginny, that superintendent. He would put in that submission, and now we would be at the pending review stage. So now it's back in your wheelhouse. And now again, kind of talking about this flow, in the old way of doing things, I would download this and start to, you know, make my markups within Bluebeam. The beauty of this is right now I can actually review this document within Fieldwire. So here, hey, I'm going to open up this staircase shop drawing submittal. I can take a look at it, zoom in, do whatever I may need to do, and then again, I can start annotating this directly within Fieldwire. Here, let's say, hey, I want to add a measurement, and we'll just check, hey, I want to add a measurement from here to here. I can go ahead and pull some measurements. I can even, hey, just draw just simple shapes, whatever I may need to do to, again, add my comments to the submission. Now, the architect would be doing the same exact steps once it reaches their window. And what I also, again, love about this product is the fact that I can add my own custom stamp in here. So if I'm that architect that has that legal stamp that they use day in, day out, they don't, again, need to pull this out. They can just drop that stamp within Fieldwire and stamp your drawing for you. In this case, I'm doing this as the GC, but this would be the same steps that the architect would be taking on their side within Fieldwire. And let me just save and attach. And now I'd be essentially able to submit this back. If you ever need to reject these, you can always also kick it back to the subcontractor. Again, like we were talking about before, I can always email these or download them as PDF at any step in the process. So now, again, we would have sent this down to the architect, they would have approved. And now we reach this it would be in that pending approval stage. And now we're in the pending close stage. So let's actually open one up and check it out. And now what you can see is essentially you get that audit trail, right? We have the original submission, my review, and then we have the architect's review right here. And you have the exact, you have this a separate PDF that was saved as for every step of the process. Now at this point as well, hey, if I need to create a revision, the product data changes, we want to use a different product, whatever may be happening, maybe a design change occurred, I can always create that revision as needed as well. From here, let's actually we would close this out. And now let's look full circle what that final closed out, submission actually looks like. So let's jump into this interior lighting example. And what you'll notice, again, like we talked about, you have every step of the document. And what Fieldwire is also doing is adding your company code, the same as you've been doing, in the past, so that you know exactly whose hands these went in. So we know that, hey, this went to the Fieldwire general contractor, and then this went through the high-rise architect approval process as well. Now, let's actually download this PDF. And the reason that I like to show this step is internally, you're not going to get rid of your local server, right? So you can still be up at the end of a project to archive these internally. You can also download these submissions and upload these PDFs on your local server. And the beauty of this is, hey, you get the full context of whose hands this went into, as well as you can see if you want to actually still access those PDFs that were attached to these submissions, these are live links. So I can actually open this up and see the document that was approved and who dropped those stamps and all that jazz. So with that said, let's top it off with the activity log, and you can see again that live face look timeline. Hey, went from Bob to Mike Anderson to Carol. You see every step of the process that occurred for this submission. With that said, before we jump into our Q&A, we're going to take a quick minute again, and please take the time to just answer our final poll here.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the demo, and I hope everyone enjoyed the demo. I think we covered a lot of ground today. So let's start with some Q&A sessions, just kind of debrief a little bit. One of the questions from the crowd is, what are the reporting functionalities available for RFI and submittals?
Yeah, so we can actually jump back into the problem. But if everybody remembers, I had that generate reports function. So not only is Fieldwire your live log, so hey, you see all those live stats, but if I want to pull that Excel document, I can go to that generate reports function within Fieldwire and see that right here. as you can see here.
Awesome. And just to clarify, there are PDF and CSV reports available. So kind of whatever you'd like, we have that as a reporting functionality. Next question here, can I link RFIs on the plan?
Absolutely. And that's what we were looking at a little bit earlier with our guy, Jimmy, right? He's in the field. He has his RFI. We can actually create that link directly to the plan here. And I can go ahead and search any of my RFIs. Let's just do the steel coping one as an example, link directly to the plan, as well as connecting them directly to tasks as we saw in the demo.
Awesome. One other question is it possible to control access to RFIs and submittals for various team members?
Yeah, and that's that's an important part that we didn't really talk about today, but within your Fieldwire kind of people's tab, right? A couple of things have changed. One, you're breaking people out into companies now, so hey, you know exactly what side of the fence they lie on. And then in terms of access level, you have two types of levels, right? We have that manager and contributor. So the idea is, hey, you got those younger field engineers, they're might be writing up RFIs, they're kind of growing and learning their skill of how to actually, write something that looks more like a legal document and not some essay that they would write in college. And then as that manager, you can have that second kind of review QC process to then send it out to the architect or whomever you're going to send it out to.
Awesome. Another question here. Where is the summary statement of closed and outstanding RFIs and submittals?
Sure. So in terms of summary statement, right, I have my all RFIs here. I can see that within that live status right here, as well as, if I get even better is that you want to go to that my RFIs, right? Like a lot of times, you're going to have hundreds of RFIs in these tabs. It's great to be able to go to, hey, my RFIs, I see exactly what's due and what I need to do in this current, RFI area, as well as, hey, I want to see all my watched RFIs. So you got all the filters required to really see, what's due when, by who. Also keep in mind, just to kind of top it all off, you can also filter these down by the assignee, by the due date. So you have a lot of filters to make really ensure, it's that at the end of the day, ensure that you're, again, answering these on time or adding those submittals in on time as well.
Awesome. Another question is, can I access RFIs and submittals on my phone?
Yes, sir. So let's jump back into mobile, and probably should have topped off the meeting with this, but here, hey, I can see actually those RFIs directly linked to the plan. I can open this up. Not only that, but if I go back to my kind of tab here right before, if you guys are familiar with the project, hey, field management kind of stops right there at files, and then you have people and settings. Now we have these two kind of added tabs, which is RFIs and submittals, and I can access, in this case, I'm not in the right filter, but I can access, hey, all the RFIs as well as all the submittals.
Sweet. Another question here. Are there reminders for overdue RFIs and submittals, assuming they're late?
Yes. So that's kind of like that check email reminder. You would be getting ping notifications, hey, 2 days before that it's due. Hey, get on this. You need to go answer this within Fieldwire via email if it was an RFI. Then also, hey, again, we can see those red marks right here. You know exactly what's late just by living in your actual submittals or RFI live log as well.
Sweet. And just going through some questions here. Thanks again, everyone, for asking the questions. Really helpful for us to answer them during the call. Let's see here. Oh, there's one that, could you talk about tasks assigned to subs and how to follow up with them too?
Sure, and a little bit of context around it is, Will, do they mean like just assigning out tasks like old field management kind of use case there?
I think it might be referring to the task to RFI method that you use. I think just on the follow-up with the RFIs. And just to clarify here, we do have a webinar that we covered in our last month that talks a little bit more about task. And we have a recording on our site as well, which we'll send out some of the resource after the webinar.
Gotcha. Yeah, and pardon me, I forgot to mention that, but implore you definitely, if you've never seen Field at full scope, it's so worth it. It's such a cool product. So let's just say here now, we've got that RFI answered, right? Jimmy would have received the email saying that it was answered. But as well here, I can go ahead and ping Jimmy again. Hey, at Jimmy, see the RFI answer. And now on Jimmy's side, hey, he gets that little ping notification exactly like a text, and now he can go ahead and open this up as needed. I won't walk through those steps, but again, just open up the iPad and you're ready to rock and roll.
Sweet. And this question is related to specifications. Can I upload revisions to specifications?
Yes, absolutely. So again, like a lot like plans, hey, if I just dump some new spec book in, these will all get revised. You'll see this current revision date essentially change to that date that you uploaded them.
Awesome. And another one is, can we see a copy of the RFI and submittal log?
So a copy meaning like when we're talking about PDF, again, in this generate reports, I can generate the RFI log. I can do the same thing with the submittal log as a CSV or PDF. So as a snapshot.
Sweet. And due to time constraints, let's take one more question. And I think we can actually answer that question on my end on the slide here. I got a lot of questions from folks who are interested in setting this up and would like to learn more about how to get this set up on their project. So just a quick follow-up, we will provide a copy of the slide deck and recording after our webinar. But in case we weren't able to address all your questions today, we'll make sure to follow up from an email. One thing I do want to note here is you can learn more about RFI and submittals by scanning this QR code on the book your demo today. And we will have a construction expert kind of team member reach out to you to give you a little bit more insight on what RFI and submittals would look like for your project. And we're happy to work with the team to kind of see how this can work for everyone. Additionally, feel free to leverage our online resources to learn more about how you can leverage some of our other tools and also see some of our past webinars as well. And feel free to use this to your advantage to maximize your ROI with Fieldwire. And lastly, if there's anything that I would like everyone to help us with is to not forget to complete the survey after the webinar. It really helps us shape up our future webinars and assess our performance and see what the teams and our partners would like to see in the future. And once again, thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and we hope to see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.